It's time to put the procrastination on pause now. I'm so sorry for the delay, but I do hope you enjoy this episode anyway. Hello, 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 and welcome to Kaylin's Corner. I'm your host, Kaylin, and this is my corner of the internet where I talk about anything and everything that comes to mind. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this finds you well. I did low key fumble the intro a little bit, but I do very much think it's the nerves getting to me after not recording a podcast episode for what, almost a month now? Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. that was a bit of a silent burp in case. Whatever. Whatever. It's the constant need or the feeling like I need to defend myself for everything that I do. I think that speaks volumes on all on its own, but I digress. Anyway, um in case you were wondering, I just haven't had any good quiet time to record a podcast episode. And maybe it's just me being a little extra nitpicky about it because it's my show, my podcast. But I and I'm not a fan of the background noise, and sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted in the midst of trying to explain, I guess, what's been going on. But it's ironic to me because I remember in the early episodes, like when I just started, I would record out in the woods, but there was a lot of noise that I couldn't control. Like, nature, the birds, the cars, other people that may be around. Because if how would they make noise in the area if they're not in the area? Anyway, um, there are just some things that are out of my control, and I guess for a while, a good while, it just was too much of an obstacle for me, even though I can't control it. It's out of my control. The only thing I can control is myself. And so I decided to just not upload, not have what I find to be noise in the background. Sorry, I'm thinking about it now as I say it aloud, and it feels like it could be a little bit controversial because really the noise that I'm talking about is just the sounds of others existing within my space. Like, my siblings playing with each other or playing games and yelling and just other distractions. They're more so distractions for me. I don't know about you as an audience listening, how distracting that may or may not be to you. But to me, it's very distracting because I do feel like I have a little bit of a squirrel brain. And so while I have grown up with a lot of background noise pretty consistently throughout my day, and I've been able to kind of fine tune myself to be able to focus on a task while there's a lot of things going on around me. I can, excuse me, I can, the word that I want to use is empathize. I can empathize with those who are not so easily able to filter out other noises and kind of just get a little overwhelmed and overstimulated by all the sounds and things going on at once. So, I don't know. To me, it just didn't necessarily feel fair for me to try to just go on per usual when there was very clearly a lot of things going on in the background that sure I could say, hey, can you keep it down? But From my experience, when my siblings are, playing their games and things, even if you tell them to keep it down, one little, something happens in the game and they get a little too excited. They yell, they scream, what the fuck, and it could have just been super funny for like a little, not necessarily a blooper moment because I don't even edit my podcast episodes, but could have been a little silly for a little heat in the moment kind of thing. But it's not just like the ahs and the whatever. There's teenage boys when they're gaming. Not a fun thing to hear. Sometimes it can be a little bit funny, but I don't want to say we're working on it because that's not necessarily true. I'm not working on my brother getting funnier and his reactions for losing or whatever while playing his game. That's not the case. But sometimes I've seen those little compilations will come up on my feed, I guess, from time to time, and it can be a little funny, a little silly, a little entertaining, but not all the time. And it's always different, or it always feels different when it's you, like you're experiencing it firsthand. Like for me, I don't. Maybe it's just because it's me that I would feel so embarrassed. Like, oh my god, shut up! You know, enough is enough. I'm sick of the noise. I'm sick of the noise. But not. The only thing that's in my control is myself and what I choose to do. I cannot control the actions of others, even if they are very close to me. And that is okay. That is okay. But anyway, I do apologize for the delay, but I hope that you can enjoy listening to this episode. And without further ado, why don't we move into the word of the week? Well, I guess it'll be the word of the week for episode 61, but it's not necessarily the word of the week for the week that it was supposed to be uploaded. I I might still have that email, but I genuinely don't remember what day. Crazy business. I haven't uploaded since February. And we're more than halfway through March right now, like current moment. It's March 19th as I record this in case you're a little curious. And I haven't uploaded an episode since February 25th. Yeah, damn. So much has happened since then, but at the same time, it feels like no time has passed. And it's very contradictory to say, I know, I get it, I hear you, I understand, I am with you. But that doesn't really change it for me. I um, I feel like I contradict myself a bit more frequently than I anticipate. I don't mean to contradict myself. I don't contradict myself on purpose, but sometimes two opposing points can still be really good points, even if they are opposing each other. Actually, you know what? That reminds me of something that I saw on the Twitter. I think it was yesterday. Yes, 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 yes. Someone tweeted liking two contradicting tweets because everyone's making valid points with the greater than symbol. And then someone quoted that tweet and said, two things can be right, and I stand on that. And then someone in the comments to that reply said, quote, two truths can coexist. Famous words in my house. And I agree. Two things can be true at the same time. Just because your favorite color is blue does not mean that my favorite color can be blue. Doesn't mean that my favorite color is blue because your favorite color is blue. We can both have blue be our favorite color. I don't feel like that was really a good example, but it's an example. Let me try to think of a different contradictory example. Like, actually, two truths can be true. Two things can be true at the same time, even if they contradict one another. I don't like that I can't think of an example, like off rip. But actually, yeah, okay, sorry. The sun rises every day. Okay, sure. But it just depends on where you are. Because there are places, countries even, that have nothing but sunlight for weeks, months on end, even. And they also receive the opposite extreme of no sunlight for months on, well, not months on end, but for a good while. But everywhere else, the sun rises and sets every day, or not everywhere else, and a lot of other places. So it's kind of crazy to me. Like, I don't know. Well, that example in itself is a bit crazy to me. I f- ah, now I need to figure out what place it is because I have it written down in my notes. Fun fact: I have two different sets of notes in my phone. One for places I'd like to travel in the US and another for places I'd like to travel like across the globe. And I essentially created this list because traveling is so cool, so fun. You get to be exposed to different ways of being, different ways of existing, different forms of nature, different plants, different animals. All there's just so much to explore. It's fascinating to me. I really enjoy it. Well, at least I enjoy the thought of it. Traveling isn't something that I've done too much by action, but I still do enjoy it. Anyway, I digress. I have two different lists on my phone. One for the states or for the United States and places I would like to visit in the United States, and another for countries around the world and things that I would like to do in those countries. Now, I will say that these lists are pretty much curated based on the things that I see and hear about these places online or in a show or in a movie or whatever. Like if I, well, maybe not necessarily a movie, but anyway, the place goes on my list because I see something about it and I find it to be intriguing. A lot of it is kind of like superficial stuff, like just I saw a TikTok of this one pretty cafe in this country or whatever, and so I write the name of that cafe down. I link the TikTok, and it's in my notes for me for reference. And yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, the 24 hour, like the sun thing. Anyway, there is a city in Norway that I really want to visit because it's one of the places that you can go to see the northern lights because it'll be dark for months on end. But it's also a place that you can visit to have sunlight for hours on end. Based on like the 2 seconds of research that I did probably via Google, it's always sunny in Sumarøy, Norway, between May and July, which is Loki kind of perfect for me because my birthday's in May, and I think that would be such a fun birthday trip. Well, that's if I have to do like more digging, more research rather, and figure out like what things there are to do. Because okay, yeah, cool. It's always sunny. The sun is always shining, but I feel like that could get old kind of quick. And it might get a little frustrating as well, considering that I'm used to the sun only being up for a couple hours a day, not the entire day. So those blackout curtains better be top tier because, well, I was gonna say because I cannot sleep with the light on, but that's not true. That'd be a lie. I've definitely fallen asleep with the light on. I definitely have slept with the light on before. It's not something that I go out of my way. It's not something that I go out of my way to do. I'm not afraid of the dark or anything. However, it could pose as an issue, but I feel like I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I definitely would be okay because I can fall asleep with loud music on. I can fall asleep with the lights on. I'm not a napper though, and yeah, I think there's just gonna be a bunch of other what's the word I'm looking for? There's gonna be a bunch of other factors at play that will certainly kind of mess with my sleep schedule, my sleepy routine. Because Norway, well, let's look at the. What time is it in Norway? It's 5:43 p.m. Oh, they're only 5 hours ahead. That's not that bad, actually. Not that bad, but even still, after the travel, how long does it take to get to Norway? A long time. It's got to be like a 12-hour flight or something. Give me the flights, baby. Give me the flights. How long is it going to take? Um, from here to Norway. Oh, wait. Stop showing me things that I didn't ask for. Oh, probably because I didn't pick the right airport. What do you mean? 1 week trip. Okay, interesting. Nothing. Where do I have to fly out of? Oh, this is Boston, New York, town, and New York State. I didn't realize that New York State had a. This is not. This is bothering me a little bit, but I do definitely need to do some more research into this place because I don't know, like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, it's a beautiful, it's more of like a naturey kind of trip as opposed to like a luxurious kind of trip, like go to a resort. But that resort would be, at least to me in my eyes, I feel like more of like a hot summer sunny island. Maybe not summer, but you know, somewhere tropical. But based on these pictures, it's very much just a lot of ice and animals and nature. And you know what? Oh, pretty. So pretty. The northern light pictures are so pretty. Thinking about that day where the northern lights were visible for a couple of minutes here in the US, what, last year? Uh, Crying, screaming, and throwing up because I didn't get to witness it, but it's okay. My time will come eventually. I wasn't meant to see the northern lights while I was here. I was meant to see the northern lights somewhere else. But yeah, that I kind of delve a little too deep into this, but one of those things that two truths can coexist. You know, two things can be true at the same time. Just because your life is hard doesn't mean her life isn't hard too, you know? Just because, yeah, you've experienced that and it wasn't bad or quote unquote traumatizing to you, doesn't mean that this person doesn't have that same experience and view it as traumatizing or, you know, bad or something. Two truths can exist at the same time, and that's okay. I feel like that's something that can be a little bit tough for people to either remember or just accept, even. Like, yes, you experienced that thing and survived. That's awesome, but that doesn't take away from the other person who also experienced it. Yes, they're alive and they made it through just like you did, but there was something that triggered them or made it stay with them a bit more than it did with you. And I think that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it? The beauty of what? Life. To me, anyway, I think so. It's. mm, It's pretty amazing and cool that two people can experience this exact same thing, the exact same scenario, but have two different takes on it. And then I know it's really all about perspective and things. Like, there's so much that goes into it. The way that you grew up, where your head is at in that moment, there's a lot at play. But two people can be in the same room experiencing the same thing and they have two different messages to take from what just happened. One person can be like, oh, let me avoid this so this doesn't happen again. The other person can be like, oh, so when you do this, this happens. Would it still happen if I did it again? What? Why would you even do that? I guess it really just depends on the scenario itself because I'm being very broad at the moment, but still very interesting. I love to think about things like that. Sometimes I feel like I should take a psychology class again just to get into a little something. Get into a little something. I don't just get back into maybe not a psychology class, maybe like a philosophy class or something. Something. I don't know what it is, but now that I've grown up, maybe it's because I'm not in school anymore that I kind of miss it. Like I like the mm, I like the thought of being able to just expand the brain. To expand the knowledge that I hold already and to have my eyes open to a new perspective or just new information that I haven't heard before. Because I feel like I do end up hearing like the same things over and over again. And I don't know about you, but I get a little bit bored. I get a little bored of that stuff. I get a little bored of the monotonous routine of things. And I like to switch things up. But at the same time, I can be a little reluctant to change because it's like I already know what's going to happen if I do things this way. Excuse me. Why should I go and do things a different way? This way is already doing everything I need it to do. Why should I go and do it differently for the same outcome? But at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, I could use a little switch up in the routine. Why should I stick to doing things the same way? Why don't I figure out every single possible way that I can do this thing and either just do the one that works the very best, is the most efficient, or choose a different way to do it every day? For example, me walking my dog. I don't have to go on the same route every single day. I can choose a different route to walk him. Heck, I can even go in the complete opposite way that I walk him. And in the complete opposite way, I just mean like if there's a usual route, instead of kind of going forward in that route, I can kind of go backwards. See the same route from a different perspective. Instead of walking up this street, I'll walk down it instead. How does this relate to being back in school? I don't know. I just feel like there's part of me and my brain that could handle school a lot better now, especially after being able to observe other people in school for a little bit and kind of guide them in what I feel to be the right direction on how, or like the right direction or a possibility of how to do things. Because I feel like it's easier to give advice or to see a good path when you're not the one on the road per se. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Does this make sense? Like if I need to make this decision, it would be easier for me to come up with what path or solution I'm going to take or make when I take myself out of the equation and make it as if it's someone else. Like, okay, I can either go and do this or I can go and do that. But I don't know which one would be better. Well, if it was my friend and they had to choose between this or that, I would tell them to do that because this is a little bit silly, actually. You know? Does it is, is it resonating with you like it does for me? Because that's what I've been trying to do a little bit more lately when I'm unsure on what path I would like to take or what route I would like to take. I try to take myself out of the equation and I just make it the most baseline scenario ever, but just using someone else that I care about as the main focus. Take all of the meat and bones off of it, just leave the skeleton and figure it out. Like, forget about all the little nitty ditty. No! Nitty gritty details. Goodness. Forget about all the nitty gritty details because that's what I find myself being stuck on when I'm trying to make a decision for myself. I get a little too caught up in the details. Like, well, they did this or that, or but I didn't do this and that. Like, no, forget about it. Zoom out. Just look at it like two roads. You can either do this or you can either do that. Don't worry about all the other little turns and stop signs that are upcoming in the roads ahead. Just pick one. Pick which fork in the road, which lane you're gonna go in the fork. Words, cohesive sentence, maybe. I don't know, but I hope you can pick up what I'm putting down, baby. Because the little details, I feel like will get you a little bit. Well, they get me a little bit. I know that for sure. Because once I detach myself and I just put the scenario into simple words, this or that, I feel like I'm able to come up with a better well, maybe not a better. I'm able to come up with a conclusion a little bit more, excuse me, a little faster, a little clearer than when I was a bit, I don't want to say tainted because that feels like a bit of a heavy word to use, but when I was a little too focused on other aspects of that same scenario. Sometimes you just gotta take a step back. It's like when you're painting, when you're painting a painting, working on working on a project that is a painting. When you're working on it for hours and hours on end, you can get a little too caught up in the details, into the nitty gritty. When you, I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but sometimes you get a little too focused on it, and you can kind of drag yourself down when you don't need to. Sometimes you just need to take a break, take a little 15 or something, step away for a moment, and figure out what your next steps will be from there. I was briefly interrupted and low key forgot what I was rambling about, but it's already been 30 minutes and I haven't said the word of the week yet. So let's get into the word of the week. Did you like that riff? I don't know what I want to choose for the word of the week. I could just go with the word of the day for today as I'm recording, but I do also have some word of the week emails kind of not necessarily piling up because I did low key peek at them, but also kind of piling up because I haven't done a word of the week in forever. But anyway, this week's word of the week, or this episode's word of the week, is going to be piffling. 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 And there's only one definition. It originates from 19th century English, and the definition is trivial, unimportant. Examples of piffling in a sentence. Dora felt disappointed to have worked so hard for such a piffling amount of pay. Damn! Dora is so real. She's so real for that. Example number 2. I'm hesitant to call professionals for piffling repairs, so I always try to fix things myself first. Have you tried turning it off and on again? If you don't know, that was an IT crowd reference. Goodness, my brain fucking fizzled for a moment there. The IT crowd. It's a show. It's a British show. If I had to compare it to anything, it would probably be something like The Office, but just IT esque. And I know you might be thinking that sounds kind of boring, but no, it's actually pretty funny to me. If you like The Office, if you like Parks and Rec, I think you'll enjoy the IT crowd. It is a bit older. It's from 2006 to 2013. But I binged the fuck out of it when I first found out about it. When I first discovered this show, I watched the fuck out of it. And I think it's kind of funny. I think it's pretty funny. It's been a while, but I could definitely get into it again. Anyway, let's continue on with the word piffling. Very short. They didn't say much about this word. About piffling. Piffling is based on the English word piffle, meaning nonsense. I like that. I like it a lot. Piffle. Piffle. Did you know? Piffling is an adjective formed in English to describe unimportant things, based on the noun piffle. Piffle can also be a verb. To piffle means to speak in a useless or meaningless way. Thus, a piffling matter is associated with meaningless things, and the kind of speech that promotes meaninglessness. Damn. You two quit piffling around over there. Did I use that word correctly? Unimportant. Hmm. Stop piffling around. I'm hesitant to call professionals for piffling repairs, so I always try to fix things myself first. And I'm right there with you on that sentence too. Both of these example sentences, rather, are so real. Dora felt disappointed to have worked so hard for such a piffling amount of pay. Girl, you and so many other people right now. Like it's sad and scary. Sad and scary to feel like you're putting in so much effort and not receiving, or feeling like you're not receiving the payback from that effort. It can be really discouraging, honestly. And this is just me speaking personally. I don't like feeling like my work is not given the credit that it's due. I feel like that sounds a little bit entitled, but when I'm putting in all this effort, but I'm not necessarily seeing or feeling the payout or repercussions even for those actions, it can be very disheartening, discouraging, not disencouraging, discouraging. English, please. It can be discouraging, disheartening, and just straight up disappointing. I understand it. I get it. But also, just because you're putting in this effort now doesn't mean that the payout or payback or the repercussions are going to show right now as well. Like you eating better, you choosing to eat better, you choosing to drink more water, do more exercise. You're not, I mean, you can see and feel the effects of that now in this moment, but you are more so going to feel it as time goes on in the later weeks, months, years. And you'll be grateful that you did, even if you didn't get that payback right away, you know? But there are some things that are just like, ah, unimportant. Or, well, sorry, now I'm laying down. Sorry, fun fact for this episode, I'm laying down on the floor recording this podcast episode. And at first I was laying down on my stomach, kind of with my feet up in the air. And then I laid on my side for a little bit, and now I'm laying down on my back. I really do hope that you can hear the audio okay. I hope it's not cutting too far in and out because I'm trying to speak up because I know how soft spoken I can be, but hmm, now I'm really starting to think about this a little bit because okay, yeah, the word means unimportant and trivial, unimportant. But is there really anything that's unimportant? I things can be unimportant to someone, but that doesn't mean that it truly is unimportant, right? Because it's all a matter of opinion. Opinions are not wrong or right. They're just opinions, and our opinions are based off of what we know and what we've experienced. It's like how I said earlier, how two people can be standing in the exact same room and experience the exact same thing, but take two different messages from it. It's because they've had different experiences and they feel different emotions in that moment, and so the mix turns out to be a little bit different. Even if they both sat through the same movie, or they sat in the same classroom, or whatever, they're doing the same thing at the same time right next to each other. The overall message that they're receiving is different. More so because they're just in different headspaces at the time, or just all the different things that I feel like could be seen as unimportant brought them to where they are today. And I don't want to say unknowingly, but more like subconsciously curated the opinion or response that they have to the scenario at hand. I feel like that was a long winded way of saying it, but I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. um, where was I going with this? Every little thing matters. Every little thing matters in the grand scheme of things. You don't have to go about every single scenario that you encounter as do or die, because that's a little bit dramatic, or it can be seen as a little bit dramatic, but in a way, it all trickles down to something eventually. But going about things in a lighthearted way is probably for the better, as opposed to just thinking like it doesn't really matter anyway. I mean, it does. You can see. I mean, it does matter to a degree, in a sense, in a way. But right now, in this moment, to you, it doesn't. Like you can say, my water bottle's almost full. I don't need to fill it up. It doesn't matter anyway. I'll be back before I know it. But then, before you know it, something else happens and you don't end up going, I don't know, back home or whatever to refill your water bottle, or you don't end up being in a place that you can refill your water bottle. So, what didn't matter in the moment to you earlier matters now, because at the time that you would typically be at home and you could have refilled your water bottle, something happened and you're not, and you're outside and now you have an empty water bottle. And maybe now you wish that you would have actually filled up your water bottle earlier before you left instead of leaving with a half empty water bottle, you know? Something like that. A little something like that. At least that's how I can see it and interpret it. But uh, I don't want to say that everything is important, because then I feel like that kind of puts a little too much pressure on every single thing that is done, gets done, can be done, needs to be done. But I do feel like it can be true. Every little action kind of builds up. This cinder block isn't important. We don't really need it right now. Whatever, it can just stay where it is. But that cinder block can be useful, will be useful eventually. Why just have it sit there, collecting dust, doing nothing? I don't know. That's just me. That's just how I see it. Every little thing truly does matter, whether or not you see it in the moment or later on in the future. Just depends on the scenario and what's going on. But there are lots of things to take into consideration. Just generally overall, and it's can be a little overwhelming if you think about it too much. And I really try not to, but everything is important. But at the same time, I want to say not so much, but then that just feels totally contradictory to what I was saying. I keep on getting interrupted, but uh, it feels a little bit contradictory to say But like I said at the beginning, two truths can coexist, and that's okay. I love having full circle moments, honestly. And I know it's not the first time. It definitely won't be the last time either. I have a whole podcast episode that's titled Full Circle Moment. And funny how I remember that, but there's a lot of episodes that I can't remember. Just yapping away, which is what I feel like I've been doing this episode. Ooh, excuse me. But it's been nice. I genuinely have missed doing this. But I feel like I've been recording for like 2 hours, yet I only have 45 minutes of yap time on here. That's crazy business to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of all the interruptions and how long they've been, but oh well. I do think I'm gonna call it quits here and end this podcast episode. So, with that, I shall say thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Kaylin's Corner. I hope you enjoyed, and you can keep up with me on all my socials. They're going to be linked in the description below. That's it for now. Until next time. Bye.